All right, we'll call the school board meeting to order. Sorry, we're a minute or two late here tonight for Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019. Please turn off your cell phones or anything else that could beep or sing or whatever they might do. I will read our vision statement. That is that all of our students will achieve success in college, career, and life. The thought for this evening is going to be presented by Colleen Bodwin.
I went to see Gary Brooks Celebrate Educator event Saturday night, and I know a lot of people are nodding. I know a lot of our folks were there too, but there were several of our Pasco teachers and leaders there, and it was very thought-provoking and inspiring. Two things I wanted to mention for all of us to keep in mind as we plan for our upcoming year. And Ms. Hilton mentioned compassionate schools today, and this ties in with what he was talking about when she was talking about taking care of our teachers and staff too. The first thing is, one is the importance of climate and culture, and that we have the power to change it. And we can do simple and inexpensive things to improve culture at our schools. And if we can improve the climate and the culture for our teachers and staff, that will positively impact our students. One example that I know at least one of our principals said she was going to do is she committed to having a compliment notebook where one person writes a note in a spiral notebook to a colleague and complimenting them. It can be simple, like I admire the way that you walk your students to class and to specials in their choir. I love the activity you did with your class. So something simple, anything at all. And then that person writes something to someone else and it keeps passing the notebook along with all the staff members. And when he said that he did it, his staff ended up, of course, not only reading the letter to each of them, but they'd read all the ones before that. And it really does make an impact, and it sets a positive tone in our schools. So our folks really do need to feel appreciated. And then the other thing was that there will always be things that we don't agree with, but we are mandated to do, and we cannot make everyone happy. But if the decisions we make allow us to lay our heads down at night knowing we did the best we could for the students in our care with the resources we have, then we did our best. So all of us at every level and every position in our district have the power to improve the culture at our schools. So let's try to focus on that this year and keep in mind that if we are not part of the team, then we are part of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As for roll call, all members are present. And if I could please ask for a moment of silence for personal reflection. All right, thank you. For the minutes of the regular meeting of July 2nd, 2019, and workshop of July 2nd, 2019, I would need a motion to approve. Move to approve?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion made by, did you make that one? Okay. Ms. Bodwin and then Cynthia. Thank you. Okay, time for public hearings. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Alfonso, our attorney, and it's regarding the student progression plan for 2019-2020.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, this is to announce the public comment portion of the student progression plan for 2019 and 2020. Notice that this public hearing has been posted on the district website and in publications in compliance with Florida statutes. Any members of the public who wish to be heard on the student progression plan for 2019-2020 should have already completed a green speaker's request form that you can find from the board secretary. When called, please approach the podium, state your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak unless an extension is granted by the board chair. If you didn't already fill out a form, that's okay. If you are here present tonight and you want to be heard on this topic for this public hearing, now would be the time to come forward. I see no one approaching. The record should reflect that.
Okay, and no vote is taken this evening on this one either. So moving forward to special presentations, we have none of those tonight either. It is summertime. Item 5, pardon me, public comment. Wait a minute. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
Green
I'm
cards,
sorry.
if we have any.
I'm just not used to going that fast here, sorry. Public comments. Tonight, I'm going to turn over once again to Mr. Alfonso. You have
Madam
any-
Chair, I don't think we have received any green cards. I'm
Nope.
looking, and I think we're good, so I'll
So we
spare
can
everyone the
just pass
speech.
that one again, okay. So, United School Employees of Pasco, we have Don Peace this evening. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Had a long vacation, 2 days.
You look good.
I feel totally refreshed. As you can see, I'm lying through my teeth. Superintendent Browning, Attorney Alfonso, Chair Crumley, honorable board members and district staff. I really don't have a whole lot to report this evening as we've just recently started negotiations for this school year. I will say that our goal is to complete the process for this year as quickly as possible, and certainly well before the April-May timeline of last year. I do want to also remark that a couple of meetings ago, I brought forth a grading practices concern. Since that time, I understand a work group has been working on adopting a process to address those concerns and those of the board members as well. And for that, I want to extend our thanks to that work group, along with Monica Isle, Vanessa Hilton, and Leah Mitchell for working through the concerns so that we can all start the new year on the same page. So thank you, all of you. We are hoping to have a productive year for 2019-2020, and I want to thank you all in advance for working towards that end. So have a great evening.
Thank you. Board member committee reports. I'll start with Mrs. Harding.
I had none.
All right, I had a Health and Wellness Incentive Committee meeting, and we had what we have about twice a year. We get the big update from MedVision as far as all the stats on how we're doing, how our strategic plan is working on our 4 goals. And so far, one thing that was positive, we do have an increase in the current members that are using the Wellness Center. We have 35% of the current members that are using the wellness centers, and we do have a new wellness center that's going to be going up at Odessa Elementary School this school year, and I think that's going to help bring that number up even more. So that's a very positive thing. And so we looked at all the lipid compliance and prescriptions for mental health and high-risk pregnancy and heart attacks. Heart attacks were up, strokes were down. The spend of diabetes is up, but down for other conditions. So we just look at all this different type of data just to see where we need to adjust our strategic plan with the goal of keeping our cost of health insurance down so that we can have more money available to do other things. So it was a very productive meeting, and we'll take those results in and use them for our new strategic plan.
Well, and for the benefit of anybody new and not familiar, but those centers you're talking about, they have really kept our costs down. You
Yes.
probably know more about the numbers.
Yes, our liaison with MedVision, every single meeting, he is just saying that we're just a model county in what we're doing with our wellness centers and how our cost of health care increases or no increase is so much less than any other county that he works with. So he just keeps praising us for what we're doing. So I want to make sure that we continue and having those incentives to make sure that the employees are using the centers, but also that they're taking advantage of the health programs that are in the centers and following up on their compliance with what conditions that they have really does help lower our wellness costs.
Mr. Altman?
I've had none since last meeting.
Ms. Bowden?
I didn't either. I think that noise stopped, if you're wondering. We were hearing some feedback, but I
Yeah,
think it
there's
stopped.
feedback up here, but
Thank
I
you.
had no committee reports either. Excuse me. Superintendent Browning?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chairman and members, since the last time we met on July 2nd, the Florida Department of Education released school grades on July 11th. And I believe Dr. Jones, Director of Farm, sent materials to board members with the data concerning school grades. I will tell you that I'm pleased. We end up with about 20 traditional K-12s with a letter grade of A, about 20 Bs, 32 Cs. We end up with 3 Ds, no Fs. We have 4 schools that did not get grades reported, but we are appealing that to the department. We appeal that. That's a standard practice for us to appeal that and make the case why those test scores should be calculated and school grade released based on the percentage testing. So we continue to work on the 3 DA schools as well as the priority schools that have moved off of DA status. Staff is doing a terrific job monitoring that and providing specific supports where those supports are needed. Just to let you know that internally, there's been a little bit of a shift when Dr. Isles moved to high schools. Dr. Isles and Ms. Poe have predominantly taken all the DA and priority schools. Dr. Skanga, Dr. Isles, Ms. Poe, and Ms. Hester-Nettles have their priority schools, but the DA schools, the 3 DA schools, will be primarily under Mrs. Hilton, working in concert with the respective assistant superintendent. One of the reasons for doing that is the state requires a single point of contact for DA. And we had gathered around the table and figured out what was the best way to do that. And so Ms. Hilton will be leading the charge with our 3 DA schools, working with the respective assistants. So we continue to monitor. Our goal is to get the 3 schools off of DA status. We have 7 schools that are on what the state calls the low 300 list. You don't have to be a DA school in order to be on the low 300. But we continue to provide the supports there because our goal is to get off the low 300 list as well as to get off the DA list. And we're making great gains. And I'm very, very, very pleased with where we are. Changing subjects, Master Board, August 16th. That is a confirmed date. It is a Friday for our second session for Master Board. It'll be here in the boardroom from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. That's been confirmed with FSBA. Breakfast will be served for board members. We'll go through the first of 3 additional sessions for that certification. The other 2 dates which have been confirmed are September 6th, which is a Friday, and October 11th, which is a Friday. And we will provide more details as we get closer to those dates, but I want to make sure everybody had August 16th on their calendar. I think our last meeting, one of the board members, I believe it might have been Ms. Bodwin, raised the December 3rd board meeting date. That apparently is the same day as the FSBA Chairman's Training, which occurs in the morning. So what I'm going to suggest to this board, and we can take this as an off-agenda item if you are in agreement to do that later in the meeting, is not to cancel the December 3rd meeting, but to move the December 3rd meeting to that evening.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping. Yeah.
So that way we don't shortchange, and we still have to pay our bills, we still have personnel appointments, we still have business to transact. So my recommendation would be when we get to the other action items portion on the agenda, that we would then move the 9:30 a.m. meeting on December 3rd to a 6 p.m. meeting. That would be my recommendation. And finally, Madam Chair, members, there was just recently, last week, a You may have read the press reports about the statewide grand jury's interim report. If you recall, Governor DeSantis had requested the Florida Supreme Court to impanel a statewide grand jury to investigate school districts and their compliance with the school safety, primarily the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas law. And it has been indicated in that report that there are like 10 districts that are not compliant. And I want to tell this board publicly that the Pasco district is not one of them. I don't know specifically, but I will tell you, backing into that comment, that we are compliant with what that law and the other laws that the legislature has passed requiring us to do things with mental health, as well as particularly the public or the school safety piece. We are compliant. There are still areas that we continue to monitor and that we continue to update our policies and our procedures on. But for all practical purposes, I will tell you that we are compliant. Just as a side note, as president of the Superintendent Association, I continue to encourage districts to do the same thing. I've got enough to say grace over myself with one district. I'm not going to get into the business of meddling or running other districts, but I do press my colleagues that they need to go through a process to ensure that they are compliant with those laws. We specifically sat down as a staff and went over 726 and 7030, and there was one other bill. My numbers get confused, but we literally went through every section of that bill with staff around the table, and I said, where are we? Where are we? Where are we? They were all prepared because I want to make sure that not if, but when the investigators come in from the statewide grand jury to look at Pasco's records, that they will find everything they need to arrive at the same conclusion that this superintendent has, and that is that we are compliant with state law. I just want to make sure that you aren't left guessing as to who the 10. I don't know who the 10 are, but I will tell you Pasco's not one of them. That's all I have.
Okay, before we move to Mr. Gadd, I have a question. You had mentioned changing that December meeting to evening. Do we need to take a vote on that? Should we do that now?
She said to do
We
it
will
during
the
action.
After action.
Other action.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, Mr. Gadd, anything to report?
All good, thank you.
All right, Mr. Shibley?
Two things, and I would actually like to start by inviting John Simon to come up to the podium to make an introduction that is before the board for a promotional opportunity, and one that I am extremely excited about. So,
good evening. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce to you Rebecca Musselman. She is before you tonight for promotion to Senior Manager of Technology and Information Services. Rebecca has served the district for 20 years. In fact, she's a product of Pasco County Schools, attending Woodland Elementary, Stewart Middle, and Zephyr Hills High. Upon graduating college, she started her career here in 1999 as a music teacher at Ann Clode Elementary and Cody River Elementary. Later served as a band and chorus director at Seven Springs Middle and Bayonet Point Middle, while working as a teacher of intensive reading. She joined our administrative team in 2008 as an assistant principal at Seven Springs Middle School. Later moved on to supervisor of fine arts and middle school programs in our curriculum department. And finally to her most recent role as project manager of our Quest project, where she'll now be moving on to senior manager over the management information systems team, which manages and maintains all of the software systems within our programs and our operations. I'm excited to have her in the role. She's done a fantastic job to this point, and she keeps the team running well. So, Rebecca Musselman.
and then the only other item that I had is, along with that appointment, there are some other addenda to 10.1 that have been uploaded into Board Docs. Thank you.
10.1 addendum. Okay. All right, Mrs. Kuhn?
Good evening. I just wanted to highlight items 11.1 and 11.2, and specifically on 11.1, we have the pre-construction for the wing at Sun Lake with Ajax, and then for 11.2, we have the pre-construction for the wing, I'm sorry, I messed it up, I apologize, when I said Sun Lake, that is the Williams Company. And we have representatives from the Williams Company here. We have Dirk Heller and Tony Rouse who are here. So I just wanted to recognize them and for you to say hello to the board.
Would you like to stand up?
Glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad that you're here. Thank you. Mrs. Swenson.
Yes, in reference to item 12.2, we did upload some information to you this afternoon, but we will upload the final numbers tomorrow. Okay. That will be the advertisement for the paper on Friday. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Over here, Mrs. Hilton.
Sure. Good evening. This week, we are engaging our leaders around our mission, vision, and key priorities at Together We Lead. Next week, as you know, we'll be welcoming new and returning teachers to engage in Together We Learn as we launch the school year. This continues to be a very meaningful opportunity, and we appreciate your support with that event. It is also always my pleasure to share highlights of staff and students, and so I wanted to mention to you that our current Teacher of the Year, Holly Mickler from Pasco Middle School, was honored at the State Teacher of the Year event just last week. It was my pleasure to celebrate with her, along with last year's Teacher of the Year, Rob Patterson, who was also there. Another great honor for Pasco is that a recent graduate from Pasco High School, Paul Leon, is one of 8 Lombardi Scholars at the University of Florida. So this is a great pride point for Paul, his family, Pasco High School, and our district. Last but not least, I'd like to invite up Ms. Leah Mitchell, Director of Leading and Learning, to share some updates that actually Mr. Peace referenced regarding secondary grading practices.
Before she
Come on up,
starts,
Leah.
Can we do anything about this? It's driving me
Oh,
crazy.
this.
Do you know why we're getting a voice?
I hear it.
It's the microphone. I think it's with the new recording now, but we're getting
It
a
didn't
voice
happen
up
last time, though, so.
It is a little weird up here.
It's feedback.
It must be just over there, 'cause
For some reason, I
Yeah.
think it's mine, for sure.
She and I and Janice are getting it.
Okay, well, let's move on, and then we will address that. If we don't get it done during this
It's all your
meeting,
fault.
We
No, I'm
will
just kidding.
get it done for
Wouldn't be
next
the
week.
first.
All right.
No, thank you so much for the opportunity, Mrs. Hilton. Thank you all so much also for indulging and engaging in so many conversations. I really, truly am very appreciative of each of you, but also of our teachers and of Mr. Peace as well, in really tackling and doing some of this work together. So where are we now since our last conversation? We've had the opportunity to collect numerous questions from a variety of teachers, leaders, board members, community, and what we've done is put all of those questions, sorted them in, put them in categories, and we do have a draft FAQ document. What we found in many of the questions is that they are actually referencing what are perceived changes that are actually long existing state statutes. And so within some of those answers, we also wanted to make sure we provided any research that's guiding some of our thoughts and ideas and work, but also the state statutes, board policies, or other board-approved documents that had already many of these practices that feel very new already in place. And so I think it's that idea of really paying close attention to how we've done things as we kind of move towards that next step. So one thing is we will have a FAQ document ready for teachers when they return that provides additional assistance. This week at Together We Lead, we've been able to engage secondary leaders also in deeper conversations and discussions with tools to go back to their schools and have these conversations in a structured and thoughtful and meaningful way. Not only are they prepared to have those conversations with teachers during pre-planning, we also have developed a virtual professional learning course that will invite all teachers who are interested to engage in, and it really will tackle the text that we're using called Grading from the Inside Out, and it guides us through with opportunities for discussions, posts, all of those types of things, so it really is interactive and an opportunity for us to share our learning and growing and thinking together. So those are 3 of the things. I am very grateful grateful for the folks from Secondary Design who did come together over the summer to talk through some of the questions and the frequently asked questions and categorizing them. We definitely didn't want to remove any intent of the question from the people who were asking, but many of them were getting at the same thing. And so we wanted also, before we published a draft, to make sure everybody on the Secondary Design team who's been in the conversation feels that any answers provided by the group really are representative of how things were discussed. And so I don't have that for you right now. It's still in very draft form, but I do and can commit that it will be available to our teachers, to our leaders. And so I do think great conversations and discussions have occurred, and I'm very hopeful that our teachers feel supported and prepared, and that our leaders feel supported and prepared in having those conversations. I think I said it last time, but the grading conversation, it gets big fast, and so it really is going to take myself, everybody I have the opportunity to serve, same thing with Mr. Peace, for us to really join together and figure out how we move through this work together. And so I'm very appreciative of that opportunity as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
I was just going to ask, will the teachers be able to get professional development points if they do that
Yep,
online class?
you got it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Cool. Anything else? Any other questions? Nope. Okay. You finished? Okay. Mrs. Hexler Nettles?
I have nothing this week.
Okay. Mrs. Poe?
Yes, I would like to introduce to the board for promotion to assistant principal at Gulfside Elementary is Miss Jody Legg. If Jody could please stand. She's joined today by Claire Craig, the principal at Gulfside, and I also saw husband Corey and daughter Chloe, so they'll come in. But Jody is coming into her 10th year in education and starting her 7th in Pasco County. She's been a teacher at Chester Taylor Elementary School, a literacy instructional trainer coach at Rodney B. Cox Elementary School, and most recently the learning design coach at Oakstead Elementary. And we are very happy to have her now at Gulfside working side by side with Clara. So we're waiting, we're stalling, we're waiting for Chloe and Corey to come back in. But very exciting opportunity being our community school, and I know she is going to be a huge asset to that community.
Yes.
Keep talking.
I'm trying to think of more.
Well,
Are they coming?
the bouquet is
You can
beautiful.
update
Here they
us on
come.
the construction. Aren't they doing something at Gulfside?
Yeah, anything else going on there that we might
There is
want to know about?
definitely some exciting work happening at Gulfside with the reconstruction of their community hub that's all funded through their recently received grant. I don't know if we're going to have Chloe and Corey, but we do want to congratulate and welcome.
And the flowers were
Jody.
beautiful that I saw.
Thank you, Clara, for supporting her.
It's making it. Dr. Isles?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to ask James Smith to please stand. He is also here represented by Vanessa Moon, principal of Anclote High School, and his wife, Dana. Dana, if you could stand as well, you're part of this. It's a whole family thing. We are excited to bring James Smith as a recommendation to you for an assistant principal at Anclote High School. James most recently completed one of our admin interns, and he basically was at Bayonet Point and also at 5A. He was selected for Anclote High School specifically because of the recommendations we received at both of those schools around his ability to connect with community stakeholders and his ability to build relationships with students. His background is as a civics teacher as well, and we are just thrilled to have him as part of the team at Anclote. So thank you.
Thank you, congratulations.
Corey is coming in, the proud husband of Jody. Congratulations.
Dr. Skanga? No? Okay. All right, and one of the good things of summer there are no expulsion recommendations or hearings. Yay, Melissa Musselwhite feels the same way. Well, I said it's summer.
It is.
You know. All right, so moving on to the consent agenda. Any board members have any items you'd like to move from the consent to action?
I didn't want to remove it because Ms. Kuhn already addressed it, but the folks from Williams that are here tonight, and I don't know if the Ajax folks are here, I didn't see any, but I think I may have mentioned this before. The Ajax folks here? There you go.
Oh, they're there.
Thank you.
Oh.
We didn't know you were back there. So anyway.
Sorry, we would have had you stand up too. Sorry.
Thank you for being here.
Sorry about
So
that.
anyway, Ajax is going to do Bexley Elementary, and Williams is going to do the Sun Lake Edition. But the comment I wanted to make is that there were 15 proposals from companies, even in spite of the bulk of work that's out there, that wanted to do Pasco work. In all my years of doing those, it was the most that had ever been submitted, and it was hours and hours of reading through the stuff, and it literally came down to points. And so we got 2 outstanding firms, but I wanted the board to know that there are a whole lot of really, really, really good companies that want to do work for Pasco County because they appreciate our staff and professionalism and stuff, and we've got 2 great ones here tonight. So I don't need to pull it, but I did want to recognize them and just let the board know how many people there were that were on that deal, and these are the 2 top right here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing everything to come.
So, Madam Chair, if nobody else wants to pull anything, I'll make a motion for approval of the consent agenda along with the addendum that was added for 10.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Motion made by Member Altman, and I didn't hear who seconded, I'm sorry.
Armstrong.
Everyone else seconded.
We all seconded, no, okay. More Member Armstrong. Motion approved. And you said something about 11.1 and 11.2, but was that just to bring it to our attention?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, just checking, just trying to get it right. All right. Give me a second here. Okay, we are on to one action item, District School Board policies update, and I need a motion to approve and
I
then
move
discussion.
approval, I move approval
Am I missing
of,
something?
No, ma'am, but.
15.1.
15.
Did I miss something?
No, you didn't
No.
miss anything. I'd just like to say something,
Okay. you
if I can.
Well, let-
Before he says that, I've been public in my comments about not wanting to arm teachers and to let our school safety guards and SROs deal with the safety issues, the compliance piece, and the actual act of keeping our kids safe in our schools without having to burden teachers or other school personnel. And the issues raised is, does this language preclude us from in the future arming additional staff members if the situations change? So I'm going to ask Mr. Shibley just to briefly talk about how we got to where we are and why we settled on where we are.
Sure. When Neola sent us the recommended policy revisions, this was one of the sections where they kind of gave you the choice, and you chose which option matched the model that your district was using. And the 2 choices they gave you were, 1, a district employee who is hired for the specific purpose of being a school safety guard, and option number 2 was an employee or volunteer who agrees to serve as a school guardian in addition to their other official job duties. Well, we knew based on the position of the superintendent and comments from the board that we were really an option 1 district. We have not chosen to give additional school safety guard responsibilities to our existing employees. We've hired them independent. If down the road we choose to go in another direction, we can certainly go back and amend that election, but we chose the option that seemed to most closely match what the district was choosing to do.
I have one thing to say. It's on that same policy, but not in that vein.
Sure.
When we talked about this last time, at the end of where it said, number 1, it said a safe school officer is dismissed for misconduct or discipline. Remember it says and we had talked about putting or there?
Let me...
It is
At the
in
bottom.
green. There's a number 1 and a number 2 at the bottom.
I'm trying to get to that.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm in,
Yeah, we had
Neola
talked
Drive.
about in the
And I
workshop
think the and
changing
needs
it.
to be taken out.
We had talked about, putting an or removing and I didn't know if there was like a state policy why we didn't do it or if people didn't want to do
I think
it.
we actually, it might have been a typo, because I remember pulling the statute, it tracked the statutory language with the, I
Oh,
don't
that's
have that in
right.
front of me.
That's right.
So we
I
have to
think the
leave it.
statutory language did include the and.
And we
So
added
you have to
the
meet
nor.
both conditions.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's, yes.
so
Good-
I
good
just
call.
finally got to, do I need to make a change? I'm
Okay,
sorry, I
so
was locating it while you all
We
were
will
talking.
confirm,
After, no, later.
as long as the board knows that if we need to make a technical change to it, if that's
Right.
permissible.
Okay, or you could notify them for one. That's nothing stopping you from notifying them. It's just saying if they did both of those, you have to. But you could if it was just one, right?
Well, I'm pretty certain that if we
One of those
dismissed
happened,
a-
I would think we would.
I'm pretty certain that if we dismissed a school safety officer, a school safety guard, that we would, just as a matter of action, is notify the sheriff's office. As well as particularly on number 2, where if they discharge his or her
Right.
firearm in the exercise of his or her official,
Yes.
other than the training purposes, then we would certainly notify the sheriff's office.
And if I may say, that also is covered in the guardian agreement as well.
Both those points.
So it
Yes.
has to be and.
So it's already in an agreement with the sheriff that we would
Okay.
notify them for
Okay.
that.
So you think the intent is if either one of those things happen, even though they,
Even though they wrote it as and.
Correct, and the
Right,
and,
and-
I removed the and from what is in board docs under 8407. So there's just a semicolon, it's 1 semicolon 2.
Oh, okay, because when I pulled
So
up
I think
the-
I made that correction when we were talking.
Right.
During the workshop, so.
Oh, because the upload had it, so.
Yes,
that's
the and should be gone when Neola goes to post.
Okay, great.
And Attorney
Yep.
Alfonso had a
I'm
comment.
fine, I guess if the motion were at least, for the record, to be construed to say that it will follow the statute, because I'd prefer it follow the statute if that is controlling, and if it's not in the statute, then it would be as Mr. Shibley just indicated.
And I would suggest that we look at the statute, and if the statute has the and, we would leave the and in there.
Could
If it does not include the and,
We'll
with your
delete it.
approval of this tonight, we will strike the and.
Okay.
And the and is gone.
Well, I was going to say that or else pull 8407 for additional clarification and discussion
We could put it back on.
bring it back.
Oh, next week?
Can we?
And just
there's
approve
nothing that we have
everything else.
No advertising is impacted on the policy.
It's already been to
Yeah,
public
we
hearing.
would likely have to start over.
Oh, okay.
And
You think? I think we've already been to public hearing on this matter.
I'll leave that up to you.
And we
I
did
don't-
discuss this at that time.
So it was subject to public hearing, there was no comment. So, I mean, I don't see a legal prohibition for proceeding or tabling it. It's effectively tabling that one item, that piece, if there's no other timetable that's affected.
If you don't think there's a problem, then I would suggest pulling 8407 from tonight's agenda, and then we can either add it to the 30th or wait until the 6th of August, which is, we have 3 meetings in a row. We have tonight, the 30th, and then the 6th of August. My preference would be to keep a sane board secretary, is that we would put that on the August 6th agenda for approval.
Okay, so do you need a motion?
So if you can, we have a motion and a second that's pending. If
So-
the mover would be willing to withdraw the motion and the second would be
Right.
willing to withdraw, then
Okay.
we can just withdraw both
yeah,
At this
I withdraw.
and amend the motion.
Okay, so then I seconded, so that's fine.
You're going to withdraw?
Yeah,
Okay,
and then we
what
need
do
another,
do?
we need a motion to approve all, right? I think.
Make a
All
motion
of
to.
8407.
What do we do next?
I'm
so
going to
we've got
make a
it.
motion to approve the policies as presented, except for policy 8407.
Second.
And do I need,
We'll do a separate motion to table,
Okay.
that'll be fine.
Is that going to work?
Yep.
yeah.
All right, so all in favor?
All right.
Aye. I make a motion that we table the approval of policy 8407 until the August 6th board meeting.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Mrs. Facemeyer, did you get all those?
She's
Okay.
good as gold,
All right,
good as
she's
gold.
wonderful. Okay.
We'll
Okay.
talk tomorrow.
Thank you. So individual,
Actually,
No,
yeah,
we have to do
off
December
agenda item for
agenda.
we need to,
oh, back to this December 3rd meeting.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I'm going to need a motion
Okay.
to change the meeting from a morning to an evening
you
meeting.
need a motion
I
to
make a motion
take-
that we take an off-agenda item.
Second.
Oh, that's true.
Then,
Okay.
move
Okay,
to, I'll move to.
all in
move-
favor?
Whoops.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we need that motion.
Okay, so we move the meeting for December 3rd from a 9:30 a.m. meeting to a 6 p.m. meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And Madam Chairman, members, we will make that change on our website in the board, and we'll also publish the change, and then we'll also
Thank
post
you.
it out on the website.
Thank you for doing
All
that.
right. Okay. Individual board member reports. We'll start with Mrs. Harding.
This week I got to visit, last week, I got to visit the extended school year at Hudson High School, and I got to cheer on our middle and high school students from Hudson Middle, Cruz Lake, and Hudson High as they finished their extended year. I was really, really happy to hear that so many of the students that had recovered their credits, I was really, really proud of them. And I'm also so thankful for the teachers who have poured their hearts into those students over the summer to help them succeed. And I also wanted to thank Leah Mitchell for getting me in touch with Tanya Shook, who set up the visit, and to Mr. Terry Ochman, the assistant principal of Cruz Lake, for showing me around. It was really awesome. That's all.
Right. I went out on the summer feeding bus out of Hudson Elementary, and I just want to say what a wonderful job that FNS does in preparing those meals for the students. But what I was most impressed about was the bus driver and the FNS staff person that was on board. They knew the children, they knew their names, they cheered them on, they greeted them, they thanked them for coming. It was just such a positive experience for those children and families to come on the bus and get their meal, that it really, made me feel good that we were so welcoming to those students and made them feel so welcome. So I very much enjoyed that experience. I was very glad that their air conditioning started working since it had been broken on the bus the day before. So I did luck out. But I was extremely impressed with the relationship they had formed with the students that were coming on board.
So it wasn't through the school district, but some of our retired and current educators conducted Liberty Camp. They happened to hold it at my home church and somehow corral me into being Samuel Adams the other day. And do what?
Is there pictures?
They did take pictures, but I hope they have all been destroyed. But anyway, had over 60 kids and families that participated, and I was just really happy to see some of our staff people giving their time during the summer to kids to do that. I actually spent that rainy July 4th weekend reading an entire book on Samuel Adams and relearned some things myself. But we got a lot of our staff people doing great work during the summertime on their own with others also, engaging in helping our students.
I joined the Penny for Pasco committee and Mrs. Kuhn to tour Land O'Lakes High School and see the updates on their renovations, and they're almost done. So exciting. And I want to publicly thank that committee again for helping us honor our obligation to the taxpayers and use the funds as promised. I also visited the surplus store. Thank you for Wayne for letting me know when the crowds died down. And thanks to Mark Fox and his team and everyone in the communications department. They did a great job promoting that. There were lines outside the store hours before it opened, and Mark said people came in and they just bought everything right away. So it was a great event. Once again, I think it's building, and he said people were already making plans for like camping out next year. So it's great. It's great. And I got to see some of our students, not really at a school event either, but they were wearing Pasco High School shirts at the Dade City Christmas in July on Saturday, and they were performing. So that was wonderful to see as well.
So I don't have anything to add, so we'll go on to, anybody have any other new business? And then I will ask Mr. Alfonso.
Regretfully, I do have one item I wanted to bring to the board's attention. Board members, I'd like pursuant to Florida Statute 286-011 to request that the board meet in a private session at the July 30th, 2019 date at 5 p.m., which would be sandwiched in between the workshop and the board meeting, to discuss pending litigation regarding the Hanson et al. Versus District School Board case number 51, 2006, CA 2774. I seek advice concerning the litigation, settlement negotiations, or other strategies related to the litigation expenditures. My office has arranged for a court reporter to be present and to certify the proceedings. And the attendees of the meeting will include board members, the superintendent, and Assistant General Counsel, Mr. Paul Meeker. I'd ask the board to consider that at that time. This is the announcement for the record for that purpose. So that would
Say the
be
date.
July 30th.
Okay. Before our board
And-
meeting.
So it's in between workshop and board meeting.
And did we
Okay.
decide a workshop time,
We
4
will do
o'clock?
Workshop at 4 o'clock,
Okay.
with the
Okay.
closed session at 5 o'clock and the board meeting at 6.
So what was the litigation?
The case style is Hanson versus District School Board of Pasco County. It's a motor vehicle collision.
Okay. Is that it?
And that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're into the public comment section of non-agenda items, and I'm looking for the pink cards, and I'm going to turn it over to Attorney